spoken to in the field who deal with this on a regular basis, but crazy to think that wind gusts could actually knock down a commercial regional jet like this. Really fascinating.
Exactly. So a lot of questions yet to be answered. Who was the pilot? Who was the first officer? Who was working at the air traffic control? Who's working with the FAA when it comes to all of this? Because if there is high winds like this and you are at ATC, you wouldn't most likely on a regional jet just be like, hey, come on in. Weather has always been one of those things that all of us have dealt with, those cancellations and delays.
Right.
Whether it's snow, whether it's wind, severe thunderstorms. And I'm glad to sit at an airport terminal for 10 hours if I have to, if there's a tropical storm in the area that I'm trying to travel to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly.
Sure, it stinks, but go eat some sushi and chill out. You know what I mean? Like, relax. Mm-hmm. But the thing is when you have people that force it through, and this might have been that case. Now, I'm just saying that outside looking in. Obviously, I'm glad this is not a tragic situation, but who made the decision to say, oh yeah, let's take a small regional jet, fly it with 70-mile-per-hour winds down there? I mean, it's, again, guys, it's easy to play the Monday morning quarterback. I don't really want to go there too much, but we're seeing reports here on Breaking 911 where they say, well, would you look at that? And they have all these Delta Airlines stories. I'll let you look at it if you'd like at home, but it's about 10 minutes to 4 o'clock. Let's go to the video from earlier one more time as Director, let me know when we're ready to go to that, or if you have any other information on this breaking news story happening right now in Toronto. Again, the flight was going from Minneapolis to Toronto, and it is scary sometimes. We've been on some turbulent flights, right? Absolutely. The winds are, it's a scary time, especially if you're on a smaller plane. But still, the surveillance video from that airport, I think everybody's going to be watching that closely.
Oh, yes. And the black box, of course, to see what was said by the pilots and passengers. You can record what's taking place on a commercial jet, but it seems relieving that at least it landed and then the flipping happened. So it's looking wind related, and I mean, I'm trying to fathom it myself because it's just a sight you don't see on a regular basis.
Exactly. Why don't we look at this? We have a tweet that's coming up, or a post recently right now that we're being told to talk about. Okay, so there's a post that we're going to talk about here in just a second from Breaking 911 that's quite interesting. And it says, well, would you look at that? And before we continue on the content of the post regarding Delta Airlines, we'll wait for that post to be put on the screen there for you as you see the bottom right corner of your screen. Now, we don't know who, again, was the pilot, who's the first officer, who was running the air traffic control to allow all this to happen. But an interesting post, needless to say. So we're going to show that to you here. As far as commentary or opinion on what we're about to talk about, we have no idea if this specifically is the case of what you're about to see. I know that's a lot of not specific information, but as soon as that post comes up, I'll share with you the context. But again, just seeing this happen within the hour. And Director, if we can go to the video once again in full, and then maybe we can go to that post as we wait. Okay, we've got about 20 seconds to go to that video once again, and then we'll talk about this post that Breaking 911 has put out there, and then we can dissect that a little bit as we are approaching the top of the hour here on this Monday, February 17th. Let's go back to that video. John Nelson, again, a passenger, left the plane and saw this.
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. We're all getting off. Some stuff going on.
Quite the scene, huh?
Yes, it is. And I mean, it seems like this has been ongoing in these last few hours. Timothy Cardinal Dolan of New York was actually diverted on one of his flights as well. This was a United Flight 23 from Newark Liberty Airport. This is just on Thursday. Diverted after 3 hours into a 6.5-hour flight to Dublin. and he was just thanking everyone in St. John's, Newfoundland, and took to X as well. Just thank you for everyone who took me in to my flight after it did not get to Ireland. Joy to offer Mass in the cathedral, and said it's inspired Archbishop John Joseph Hughes to build at St. Pat's in New York. So some camaraderie there between American and Canadian cardinals. So I guess these high winds have really been affecting people the last few days in this part of the country and part of the world.
What this may be is the flood that affected Kentucky, the floods in Virginia, West Virginia, and the tornado warnings and watches throughout the country. And then how about yesterday, that delay at the Daytona 500 for about 4 hours because of weather, right? This may have been the same system all the way up north toward Pittsburgh, Toledo, Buffalo, Toronto, Ottawa. And so that may be the same connected storm. Anyway, so to your point, other planes were diverted. That's an interesting point that you're making there. So why would they allow a smaller regional jet to come through easily? It's easy for us to say in our cozy studio, I get it, but still, you know, we have to have answers to questions and investigations. So that post that you're seeing there, again, this is the post that we were referring to earlier. So Breaking 911 said, well, would you look at that? And all of the posts are Delta Airlines stands firm on DEI commitment amid federal corporate rollbacks. Another article, Delta Airlines renews DEI and ESG push. Huffington Post reporting Delta Airlines doubles down on commitment to DEI initiatives. NBC News, from Delta Airlines to Costco, some companies say they'll stick with DEI. So those are some articles that Breaking 911 has posted. We're highlighting that because, you know, it is food for thought. Who knows if that's even the case here? So just to make sure we got the context correct, that this could be a veteran pilot and first officer and air traffic controller, and everything's good, and they just somehow made a mistake, or maybe it was something that was out of their hands, and that 70-mile-per-hour thing just pushed through at the last second. So who knows? And that's why I want to make sure we give full context, but quite interesting for Breaking 911 as well.
What a sight to see. I mean, this is not something you're going to catch on a regular basis, but again, John Nelson, the passenger responsible for that footage you've been watching with us here, 4 minutes until the top of the hour, 4 o'clock Eastern on this beautiful Monday, President's Day, but very strange sight to see. 8 injuries reported. A commercial regional jet from Delta Airlines' flight 4819, taking off from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Toronto, Canada, has flipped over the Pearson International Airport runway in Toronto. So something really peculiar. It looks like the fire was put out rather quickly, thanks to the crew on the ground. We're also looking for a statement directly from Delta Airlines regarding this, but we know from CBS News reporting that even Cardinal Dolan of New York was diverted en route to Ireland, but celebrated Mass yesterday at St. John's, Newfoundland. So was in a sense, a residency in Canada because of the high winds that have happened recently. And up and down the eastern seaboard, there have been storms even here in Auburn, Alabama overnight on Saturday. Led to a beautiful day yesterday. But even we've been experiencing here some warmer temperatures. It's really gone down. I mean, even today it's sunny, but around 45 degrees. So we've seen a change in the systems. And perhaps we'll reach out as well to our resident meteorologist, Christina Loren. Maybe she can dive in more into some of these patterns and why these happen in this point in time and year in February. So
exactly. All right. So the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, just 18 hours ago said this on X: America deserves safe, state-of-the-art air travel, and President Trump has ordered that I deliver a new world-class air traffic control system that will be the envy of the world. To that, I need advice from the brightest minds in America. I'm asking for help from any high-tech American developer or company that is willing to give back to our country. That continues on, saying tomorrow members of Elon Musk's SpaceX team will be visiting the Air Traffic Control System Command Center in Virginia to get a firsthand look at the current system and to learn what air traffic controllers like and dislike about their current tools, and envision how we can make a new, better, modern, and safer system. So that's the long post that you're seeing there. If you want to see it on X, you just go to Secretary Sean Duffy. But this is interesting. This happened yesterday, this post, and then today we see this. Is there a connection at all? Again, this could have been simple as a 70-mile-per-hour gust hits right at the last second. It might have been calm right before that. Who knows? This is all just, options of how this might have happened. Or it was a situation where the flight should have been diverted, and somebody with, maybe they're overworked, maybe too much, maybe there is a DEI situation. Again, and this is not really against people that are of any kind of look or way they are, right?
Right, exactly.
This is just about this. If you do a great job, you should be at that position. End of story, regardless. We do see that this is from Delta Airlines, or is this, I'm not sure where this is from, guys. Is this from Delta? Okay, this may be from the FAA, if you'd like to read it.
Yes, a Delta Airlines flight 4819 operated by Endeavour Air crashed while landing at Toronto Pearson International Airport in Canada around 2:45 p.m. local time today, Monday, February 17th. All 80 people on board were evacuated, and the CRJ 900 jet departed in Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. And the Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be in charge of the investigation and will provide any updates. Very relieving that all 80 who are on board were evacuated. There are some reports of 8 injuries. We hope that's not serious. But again, John Nelson's footage, a passenger on this commercial regional jet, getting up that close, walking away with others, remarkable footage, and definitely an answer to prayers that everyone seems to be at least okay. Now we have to look into these other injuries. We just don't know how serious they are at this moment.
Exactly, and that is confirmed. That is from the Federal Aviation Administration. So the FAA update is right there. The latest news that we're seeing, that 80 people on board were evacuated. The local reports from CP24, apparently a local news media outlet there, said about 8 people were injured. The extent of injuries, not sure yet at this point. But again, some scary scenes in Toronto. Scary scenes there at Toronto Pearson Airport, just west of downtown Toronto. And again, this is a flight that was going from Minneapolis to Toronto. And according to the aviation expert we spoke to earlier, he was seeing reports of 70-mile-per-hour gusts. So should the flight have been diverted? What happened there? All the questions that the NTSB will be looking at, of course. And also the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, who's saying we need to fix up this whole air traffic control system, even outside of what happened here today.
Well, yeah, it's solely based on meritocracy. Of course, the AFA-CWA, that union, just saying, please don't speculate on this incident. We are not. We just know that DEI has become a problem within United States Airlines, and sadly, with some of the communications from Delta, we're waiting to see an official response from them regarding this situation. But as you've seen many outlines from articles recently, that they are sticking to DEI policies. And what this administration, the Trump administration, focused on doing is removing that and creating that meritocracy. And because it doesn't matter the sexual orientation, nor the look, or the philosophy of the person in air traffic control. It's, are they an expert? And we know this with Mr. Washington, who was the former director of this agency, of the FAA specifically, under the Biden administration. The questions from Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina. And the responses were, I'm not a pilot. I have to look into that. Really basics of things you would need to know as the FAA administrator, but clearly he was selected based on DEI standards.
Exactly. So that's what we'll be looking at, seeing answers to all of these questions. We obviously are glad that everyone has survived this crash there. Again, the plane on its roof, belly up. Can you believe it? This is something that we haven't seen. I haven't seen something like that before, where the plane's fully intact and it's on its roof like that. Thankful that people are all walking and okay, but holy smokes, what a scary situation there at about 4:03 Eastern time. So we'll stay on this story. We'll continue to follow it here if there's any more developments as we continue through the day here. But it's been quite the turn of events.
Oh, it has. Yeah, very sad day that seems to be interrupting anyone's business or travel, which is never fun, and especially when you're in very cold temperatures like that. But a relief that people actually walked away from the crash.
Interesting to see one of the posts there, right there by the AFA-CWA. So our union's responding, okay? And then you read this earlier, Robert. It says, please do not speculate on this incident as everyone wants to work to gather information and support those involved. Okay, of course we want to support those involved to make sure everything works out. But to not speculate, that's against freedom of speech. We can speculate all we want, and that's a right we have, at the end of the day. So my point is, what specifically happened here? We're going to get those answers from the NTSB, the FAA. Also, I'm sure that the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has been alerted about this as well. We're seeing from ABC that 8 people are injured, according to Peel Regional Police, whose jurisdiction includes the airport. One person was listed as, quote, critical with non-life-threatening injuries, so a very serious condition there, but non-life-threatening. 7 people suffered moderate to mild injuries, according to police. The Toronto Airport there at Pearson is reportedly closed until 4:30 Eastern time, so about 25 more minutes. But to be honest with you, when you look at that runway, if I'm in the terminal, I'm not trying to take off.
Right. No, I mean, it's a cause for concern. There's no question about that, especially if it's weather related, and the possibility that this was simply flipped because of the high winds, 70+ mile per hour happening in the last couple of days. We've seen reports, according to CBS News, Cardinal Dolan of New York, his flight was grounded in St. John's, Newfoundland, en route to Ireland. So he spent the weekend over there, celebrated Mass with his counterpart in Newfoundland, and enjoyed his time there, but unexpected as a result of the high winds taking place in eastern Canada.
Some developing news out of PIX 11 in New York. Severe delays at major New York City area airports due to wind, FAA. The FAA says there have been severe delays, and this article, guys, was posted 5 hours ago. 5 hours ago, the FAA said there are severe delays in New York because of wind. So if there's delays in New York, why weren't there delays in Minneapolis, Toronto? What happened here? And if I was a family member of one of those people on that plane, I'd be highly upset right now. These are answers that have to be, questions that have to be answered. I mean, look at that. You see it right there. Severe delays at major New York City area airports due to wind. And it's simple as this. As a citizen of this country, we can do the same thing. All I typed in DuckDuckGo was flights delays or flight delays today. And you look at all the news reports. Over 100 flights delayed, several canceled at DIA out in Denver. High winds disrupt dozens of Logan flights in Boston. Hundreds of flights delayed and canceled at Charlotte Airport. I'm kind of upset at this right now.
Oh yeah, no, it's sad to see. On the split screen here, you're going to see the skyline of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the flight originated from, Flight 4819 from Minneapolis-St. Paul en route to Toronto, Canada at the Pearson Airport. So it looks as if we have 8 injuries on the ground, but all 80 passengers evacuated and accounted for. So, and that's great footage from Mr. Nelson. John Nelson was a passenger on the flight, and he clearly walked away from that. So that's at least a relief, in the meantime.
Exactly. All right, so we're looking at, wow. I'm looking at some more numbers here from Flight Aware. I'm just going to make sure before I read this if this is accurate for today, but what I'm seeing is that the total delays today are 20,045 delays. And I'm looking at all domestic travel here. Total delays within to or out of the United States, there's 6,000. Total cancellations today, more than 1,000. Total cancellations within, into, or out of the United States, 855. So if this is accurate here, this is Flight Aware, I just went to that right there, 20,000 delays in one day. Then what happened with this plane? Why did they try and make this happen here? And now we see what happened with the situation. Of course, I'm not an FAA official or NTSB. We are speculating because we're allowed to. And that's what we're doing. I just can't believe it. It's quite wild to see ththese numbers here, Robert.
Oh, it's frightening, but have Secretary Duffy commenting on X regarding the ending of DEI hires and practices. You know, within the FAA, and we know that that was the case 4 years ago with the Biden administration in their selection, and we're not saying it's related to that, but it could simply be these high winds. It's just the fact that I don't think any of us have ever seen a commercial jet flipped upside down on its head after landing.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's really peculiar.
Yeah, it's definitely unbelievable to see that as I'm just checking various flight statuses just to see. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we already kind of proved the point. There are news reports throughout the country, everywhere from New York, Charlotte, Boston, and Toronto's not too far to the west of all of that. Many delays today because of straight up high winds. The FAA saying the same thing. Somehow, some way, this plane was taking off from Minneapolis and going into Toronto there. And according to the aviation expert earlier, he said he heard about the 70-mile-per-hour gusts and that it could be possible that a plane could turn over because of those kind of gusts, you know, and especially a smaller regional jet. So this is all developing as we speak right now.
Yes, it is. And we've been watching is John Nelson's homemade video on his camera. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of living in 2025. Most people have an iPhone or a smartphone of some sort that they can actually start recording. So you can see all 80 passengers are safe, taken off and evacuated, but there are 8 injuries. So the investigations are underway. This will be led by Canadian forces as well to look into this incident. So we should be learning more hopefully soon.
Yeah, and I'm on Delta's page right now. I've had great experiences with Delta, to be honest with you, just personally and professionally flying and all that, but there's no post yet on their X page. Just wanted to double check that. As we continue our live coverage, it's 4:11 p.m. here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. It looks like we're seeing a number of reports from the National Weather Service that Arctic air will bring record-breaking cold to the central U.S. this week with dangerous wind chills as low as negative 60 degrees. Wow. Heavy snow is expected from Kansas to Missouri on Tuesday, with snow and ice impacting North Carolina and southeastern Virginia on Wednesday. Okay, so that's from our COO, just sending that to us. So that prediction center, this is what was interesting, is we did hear that there was going to be a very, very strong storm coming through.
Right.
Maybe this is the front tip of that. I don't know. We should get Christina Loren on the line, but
yeah, I just reached out to her.
Yeah,
see if she can
we'll see if
on.
she can join us.
So,
but you know, I think again too, if I mean, this might have nothing to do with DEI. This might be a situation as well of there was. You know, some people call things a freak accident or a storm or whatever, something that just doesn't usually happen. And who knows if that storm was just starting, right?
Exactly.
So say the plane is landing, but again, you have to look at the full context. And what do we have? The FAA saying there were lots of flights delayed because of high winds, New York, Boston, Charlotte. So that kind of defeats what I was just saying anyway, as I'm talking this out right now live. I mean, the thing that it needs to be done is simple, and it's exactly what Sean Duffy said on X. Let's get this air traffic control situation taken care of.
Right.
And it looks like Elon Musk is actually helping with that whole process.
Oh, yes. No, at Doge and leading the way to get rid of the DEI nonsense out of all agencies and the meritocracy needed, especially in our military and at the FAA, probably arguably the 2 most important arenas of the federal government where you can't have this hiring based on skin color and based on political philosophy and religious philosophy. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Do you know how to take off and land airplanes safely? Are you an expert in aviation? I would assume that you would go to school for that. But we've had recent situations in the last administration where that did not seem to be the case, especially with further questioning by the U.S. Senate in the consultative role that they do have with the executive authority in the White House. So Delta CRJ 900, that's commercial regional jet, flight 4819 from Minneapolis, flips over on Toronto Pearson Airport runway. 8 injuries reported. Fortunately, 80 passengers on board, all accounted for and evacuated from the commercial regional jet, something very unique for us because I don't think many of us have ever seen a CRJ flipped on its head like that.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, there's another question that comes into play here is this might have had nothing to do with the United States of America.
Right.
This could have been a Canadian air traffic controller that called them through.
Right.
So that brings in another whole interesting development that this might not have been, again, an air traffic controller from America or the FAA from the States. You know, there's various ATC apps out there too. If you ever want to listen in on an ATC feed and just hear what it's like as they talk to each other back and forth, they have it live. I could probably pull one up right here, but at the end of the day, yeah, so a lot of questions to be answered about this, but not only that. How about the flight and the situation with the Black Hawk over the Potomac?
Right, exactly. So that's still an issue they're looking into. We have no developments on that, but if you saw a few weeks ago, that terrible, sad story of the flight from Wichita, Kansas, coming into Washington Reagan. And we do know that the Black Hawk helicopter was 200 feet higher than it was supposed to be with its ceiling, and had a direct hit with a commercial jet over the Potomac River, something very rare to happen with no survivors on that flight. So we've had these, you know, somewhat man-made disasters mixed with wild weather taking place. And again, according to CBS News, just over the weekend, Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York, his flight was ended temporarily earlier than anticipated, flying into St. John's, Newfoundland, en route to Ireland. So you have that also happening due to high winds. So crazy weather cells happening, as you can see on your screen there, that is causing an Arctic blast coming in through the United States and especially Canada. So that might have just been the effect on this jet specifically.
Okay, so here's what we know before we end our broadcast in a few minutes. We know that a plane, Delta CRJ 900, was a regional plane, of course, traveling from Minneapolis to Toronto. Toronto Pearson Airport's to the west of downtown Toronto. Somehow it, on the runway, flipped over. Various reports are that were high winds, upwards of 70-mile-per-hour winds. The FAA and other airports around the country saying we're delaying our flights because of the wind. Who knows if this was a Canadian situation or from the States with air traffic control. We don't know at this point. We do know that that there were 8 people that were injured. And again, Director, if we could show the video just a little bit more here as we conclude our broadcast in just a few minutes, awaiting any more information as we just extend our coverage to see if there's any more details that come out about this wild situation today.
Right, exactly. So some wild weather in the next few days, and it's important to keep yourself safe and listen when you are on those flights in order to ensure that everyone is safe. We're going to throw to it in Canada now.
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. We're all getting off. Some smoke going on.
And just in from the FAA, all passengers expected to survive. So great news there as you're looking live at Minneapolis, way in the distance there. But that's where that flight took off. And, you know, what a scary phone call that must be for the people that are okay to their family and friends. Hey, we made it to Toronto, but look at the plane.
Because you always anticipate that things will run smoothly, but always need to be prepared and to, you know, listen up when these things do occur, especially before you take off. So, you know, you wonder too as well, was everyone okay because they had their seatbelt on? I hope so, you know, and it looks like everyone who has evacuated will be just fine, although 8 serious injuries that we know of thus far.
Exactly. So this happened about 2 hours ago, within 2 hours ago. Right here, we saw it on RSBN Live, of course, and we've been covering it for quite some time. As we've covered a number of stories today, we were showing a replay of the Kentucky press conference with the governor where floods caused the death of 11 people. So it seems that this storm was really, wreaking havoc in various parts of the United States, at least from Kentucky down to, Mississippi and everywhere up into the Northeast as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see that temperature change. The further north, of course, you go, it's colder and all that. But man, it looked bitter cold out there.
Oh, yeah, nice and freezing. So,
Yeah.
Really glad to be down here in the southeast, but at the same time, we've experienced what have been spring-like temperatures going down now to the mid-40s, and even a wild storm on Saturday night that actually woke some people up and threw furniture around. Even my own property picked up things like it was child's play, child's toy or something, and throwing it yards and yards to the side. So some strange weather patterns lately that we've seen in the country and throughout North America. So be safe out there, because this is the kind of stuff that can kill you, not just the temperatures, but the high winds as well.
Exactly. And of course, all the other natural disasters that are out there. But also the radar scope, again, just a shameless plug to that. I don't know why I say shameless plug. I'm not getting anything from radar scope telling you that. I'm just telling you that personally. Happen to be working while I'm telling you that. But radar scope's by far, in my opinion, the best weather app out there to track the storms, the tornado warnings, the watches. That shows a line exactly which way the storm's going, and you actually see a little icon of a tornado if there's one that's on the ground. There's so many great things. $9.99 a year. I have it on my phone, and many at the National Weather Service do, and so does the groundskeeper at the Boston Red Sox, of all things. But anyway, so yeah, Radar Scope's the app as we monitor storms here. And you might be pinching yourself and being like, wait a minute, are we watching Right Side Broadcasting Network right now? I know we cover the rallies, and we cover President Trump, and we cover everything in the Beltway, and we will always do that. But we also are covering America First stories and breaking news, developing news here as a news network, RSBN. Of course, this is Right Side Broadcasting Live, so RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Robert McNeely. And Robert will be headed to CPAC coming up here in just a little bit, so that's kind of cool. Before I move, I'm hearing that we can do for the last couple minutes of the broadcast here. I know we only have a few minutes left. This is Dan Milliken. Hey Dan, you're live on RSBN right now. Can you share with us your thoughts about do you think it's just the high winds that knocked over this? I mean, not knocked it over, but flipped the plane?
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing, they had a 40-degree crosswind and some pretty heavy gusts. Now, the way the airlines work is they have very hard and fast rules as far as how much of a crosswind that they can take. So I have no clue what the Delta connection, what their numbers are. And it could have been a rogue gust as well. And yeah, these planes are made extremely light, to begin with. This is a regional jet, so it's not a really huge, airliner. So yeah, wind can come and flip a plane. It can happen.
That's wild. And that's confirmed here from an aviation expert. And sir, on YouTube, what is the channel that you have there?
On YouTube, we're Taking Off.
Okay.
Is the name of our channel.
So Taking Off is the channel. Dan Milliken joining us live. And I guess that sums it up right there. That might be what happened here. Do you see anything else that would cause a plane to be on its roof like that?
No, for it to happen, it has to get flipped. And for it to flip, it's going to be a gust of wind. You look at anything else, main gear failure or something like that, that's not going to lead to the airplane flipping like this. So I think it's just awesome that there are no fatalities in this. I'm hearing that there's 18 injured, 2 critical, including 1 child. So hopefully those are non-life-threatening injuries. And, just looking at the footage, just a miracle that pretty much everybody walks away from this one.
How wild was that when you saw the passenger record it and now the whole world sees it?
Yeah, things happen so fast in this day and age. And a lot of people go, are we just having more airplane crashes? We certainly have had a couple of airline crashes, but with the speed of the internet and speed of social media, we just hear about it more.
All right. Dan, thank you again so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, sir. We'll have you on again, and hopefully not, but thanks again for joining us.
Right. All right, you bet. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so taking off is the YouTube page there.
Yes.
He joined us for that Philadelphia plane crash. Remember the
Right.
medical plane that went down? Now, he's giving us information that is different from what we heard about the amount of people injured.
Right.
But I'm sure there's varying reports out there. You can stay with Right Side Broadcasting Network on Truth Social, on X, our website. Of course, we have a newsletter and other things too.
Oh, yes.
That you guys can stay with us. And that, of course, is the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, who is all about getting the air traffic control all fixed up and ready to go in a much safer and better way. So, producers, are we going to any sponsors, or are we going to close it up? Okay, so it's 4:24. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. It's a live shot of Minneapolis. What a day, Robert.
Oh, yes, and we'll stay on this for any breaking news furthermore, but all passengers expected to survive. And the question is now, we know the Canadian authorities will investigate this, but was this U.S. FAA or their version, the counterpart of a federal aviation and administration that made the call to continue with this, as we've seen in the last few days, and specifically today, so many planes that did not even take off because of high winds. So we'll stay on that for you live here at Right Side Broadcasting in case there is any breaking news.
For Robert McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again here soon on RSBN Live.